Hello and welcome. Today, author R.T. Kegel shares another inspiring story from the Bedtime Stories with Heart and Soul series, written to help you slow down, reflect, and end the day with a little more peace. Now, here's the author.
Hello, my name is author R.T. Kegels. Today's story is called Play Ball, so let's get started. In the small town of Millbridge, baseball wasn't just a pastime, it was a way of life. Generations had grown up on the fields, coached by the same men who once wore the team jersey, and watched over by parents whose cheers rang out from the bleachers. On the first Saturday in June, the entire town gathered to watch the opening game of the season, a tradition as old as the town itself. The Millbridge Eagles were the heart of the community, and for Danny Leclair, the team's shortstop and hometown hero, baseball was his whole world. At 17, he was a rising star, known for his quick reflexes and natural ability to read the game. Scouts from colleges across the country had started showing up, whispering promises of scholarships and a bright future. But Danny's sights were set even higher, the major leagues. That summer, however, wasn't unfolding the way anyone expected. A severe drought had hit Millbridge, drying up crops and leaving families struggling. The town's only factory had shut down, and with unemployment on the rise, money was tight. By the time June rolled around, the town council was forced to make some tough choices. To Danny's horror, they decided to cancel the summer baseball season, reallocating the funds for community relief programs. But Millbridge couldn't go without baseball. Danny, along with his teammates, pleaded with the council to reconsider. And that's when Mr. Tillman, a retired coach and former Eagle himself, suggested an alternative, a single game to save the season. It would be open to all ages, a game where fathers, sons, daughters, and even the old-timers could play together. It wouldn't just be about the Eagles, it would be a town-wide celebration of resilience and community spirit. The council agreed, and Danny's spirits lifted. This game wasn't going to be the season he'd hoped for, but it could be something even better. The entire town rallied to prepare for what became known as the game that changed everything. Each family contributed what they could. Local businesses sponsored uniforms, the high school art class designed posters, and neighbors brought supplies. The field, once overgrown and neglected, was transformed in just a few days. The air was electric with excitement, anticipation, and, above all, a sense of togetherness that Millbridge hadn't felt in years. On game day, the field was packed. People had come from every corner of Millbridge, dressed in the Eagles' colors, blue and gold. The teams were a mix of everyone who wanted to play. Danny stood on the field, watching familiar faces take their positions. There was Mr. Jensen, the grocer, who hadn't played in 30 years, alongside young Tommy Green, who had just learned to swing a bat. Ms. Reed, the librarian, stood on the pitcher's mound, smiling broadly, her glove ready. Danny's father, who had played for the Eagles 20 years earlier, jogged over to him, patting his shoulder. "This game isn't about winning or losing, Danny," he said with a smile. "It's about showing what this town is made of." As the game began, the crowd cheered louder than Danny had ever heard. He felt a strange sense of pride and responsibility. He wanted to play his best for the people who had shown up against all odds. For the kids who looked up to him, for the parents working 2 jobs to make ends meet, and for the elders who reminisced about the golden days of Millbridge baseball. When Danny took his first turn at bat, the opposing team's pitcher was none other than Mr. Burke, the town's mayor. The crowd roared with laughter as the mayor squinted, trying to gauge his throw. Danny grinned, knowing Mr. Burke wasn't going to make it easy. The pitch came, and Danny swung, sending the ball soaring across the field. He ran like he'd never run before, heart pounding, as he heard his name chanted by voices of all ages. The game continued, filled with laughter, cheers, and the occasional playful ribbing. Each inning brought surprises. Kids barely old enough to reach the plate took their swings, while grandmothers in borrowed gloves caught grounders. Danny's mom even made an appearance, much to his shock and amusement. Then she managed to hit a single, as the crowd cheered with a roar of delight. But it was the 9th inning that no one would ever forget. With the score tied, bases loaded, and 2 outs, Danny found himself at bat again. His heart was racing. The sun was setting, casting a beautiful glow over the field as if it were holding its breath with everyone else. This wasn't just another game. It was a moment frozen in time, one he'd remember forever. The pitcher this time was Danny's best friend, Sam, who had been his teammate since Little League. Sam grinned at him from the mound, a mixture of mischief and encouragement in his eyes. Danny took a deep breath, focusing on the ball. Sam wound up and released a perfect pitch. Danny swung with all he had, feeling the connection as the bat met the ball. The crowd erupted as it sailed over the outfield, higher and farther than any hit Danny had ever made. He sprinted around the bases, his teammates waiting at home plate. He didn't stop until he slid into home, a triumphant shout escaping his lips as his teammates piled on top of him. They'd won. But in that moment, Danny realized it didn't matter. The joy wasn't in the victory, but in the game itself. In the laughter, the unity, and the pride that filled the field that day. The people of Millbridge, through that one game, had found hope. They remembered what it felt like to be part of something greater, to cheer each other on, to share in each other's successes, and to lift each other up when times got hard. In the days and weeks that followed, the drought continued, but the spirit of Millbridge had changed. The town organized food drives, neighbors helped each other with repairs, and people who had once only nodded politely now stopped to chat on the street. Danny's dreams of baseball remained, but he knew now that his roots were here, in Millbridge, and that whatever happened, he'd always be part of something bigger than himself. The scouts came eventually, as they always did, and Danny was offered a scholarship. But before he left for college, the town gathered once more, presenting him with a jersey signed by everyone who had played in the game that changed everything. Written across the back, where his name would have been, was the word family. Years later, when he was playing for a college team miles away, or even during his first game in the minor leagues, Danny wore that jersey under his uniform. Because no matter where he went, he was a Millbridge Eagle. And every time he stepped onto a field, he remembered that it wasn't just about the game or the glory. It was about the people cheering you on, the people who made you who you were. And so, Millbridge may have been a small town facing tough times, but in that one game, they'd found something stronger than any hardship. They'd found each other, and for Danny and everyone who had been there, that was truly the game that changed everything. Thank you for joining me.
Hello again. As we come to a close, remember to like, subscribe, and follow us so you don't miss a single adventure. Thank you for spending this heartfelt moment with us. Until next time, we hope this story brought you a little peace as the day comes to a close.